Disclaimer: all testimonies shared on this channel are authentic, told by real people who have experienced them. They are shared to inspire faith, encourage repentance, and point souls back to God. Each story is personal and true to the individual who lived it. Do your research if you find it. I died, but I did not stay dead. For a moment, my soul slipped out of my body, and I found myself at the very edge of eternity. There, an angel stood before me, his eyes like fire, his voice like thunder, yet filled with mercy. He leaned close and whispered 6 things I should never reveal to anyone on earth. Each word burned into my spirit like a seal, a warning, a secret too heavy for flesh to carry. I wasn't in hell, but I stood at its edge, and what I saw changed me forever. My name is Michael Turner, and to most people, I was just another ordinary man trying to survive in this world. I wasn't a preacher. I wasn't some spiritual giant, just a regular guy with a job, a family, and struggles I tried to hide behind a tired smile. I worked as a construction supervisor, spending long days under the scorching sun, barking orders, and making sure buildings stood straight. By the time I came home each night, I was too drained to think about anything beyond food, television, and sleep. People often said I had a good heart, but deep inside, I knew I carried emptiness, unanswered questions, and habits I wished no one knew about. I told myself there was still time to change, time to make things right, time to chase the peace I never seemed to find. One evening, after weeks of feeling unusually weak, I collapsed at home. My family thought I was asleep, but my spirit had already slipped away. I wasn't in my living room anymore. I found myself standing in a place between life and eternity, at the very edge of hell, and that's where I saw him, the angel. My life looked stable on the outside, but inside I was crumbling. For years I carried the weight of disappointments, regrets, and choices I never wanted to admit even to myself. I was 41 years old, working hard every day, yet feeling like I had achieved nothing meaningful. Money slipped through my hands faster than I could earn it. My marriage was strained. My wife said I was present in the house, but absent in the heart. I laughed it off, but her words stung more than I cared to admit. I drowned my weariness in long nights of distraction, sometimes with friends, sometimes with endless television, sometimes with silence that felt louder than any noise. I kept telling myself, I still have time. Someday I'll get serious about life. Someday I'll get serious about God, but someday never came. Then the sickness started. At first, it was just fatigue. I thought it was stress from work, too many hours in the sun, too many skipped meals, too little rest. But soon my chest felt heavy, and my breath grew shorter with each passing day. My wife begged me to see a doctor, but I brushed it off. I'm fine, I insisted. I just need rest. One night the pain became unbearable. It felt as if an invisible hand was pressing against my chest, squeezing the life out of me. I clutched at my shirt, gasping for air, while my children watched in horror. My wife's voice grew faint as she screamed for help. I remember collapsing to the floor, staring at the ceiling as my vision blurred. That's when it happened. At first I thought I was dreaming. My body lay motionless on the floor, yet I was standing fully aware, fully conscious, just a few steps away, staring down at myself. My wife was shaking my lifeless body, tears streaming down her face. My son was calling my name, his small hands trembling as he clung to my arm. I wanted to reach out to comfort them, to tell them I was still there, but no sound came from my lips. Fear gripped me like never before. I realized I was no longer bound to the earth. Something was pulling me, gentle yet irresistible. The walls of my home began to fade, and I felt myself moving through a darkness deeper than any night I had ever known. My chest was no longer heavy, but my heart pounded with dread. I expected peace, but what I felt was terror. It was as though an unseen force was dragging me toward a place I didn't want to go. The air grew hot, and in the distance I heard cries, cries of torment, cries that pierced my very soul. I froze. My spirit trembled as I realized where I was heading, the edge of hell itself. I wasn't inside, but I could see enough to shake me forever. Flames flickered far below, and shadows twisted in agony. The cries of countless souls rose like waves, each voice distinct, yet blending into one endless wail of despair. I had never felt fear like this before, not even in my worst nightmares. And then suddenly, a presence stood beside me, a brilliance brighter than lightning, yet soft as dawn, engulfed the darkness. My knees buckled as I turned and saw him, an angel. His eyes burned with fire, his face shone with glory, and his voice was both thunderous and tender. He looked at me, not with anger, but with a piercing gaze that stripped away every excuse, every lie, every pretense I had carried in my life. In that moment, I felt utterly bare, as if my entire existence was laid open before him. "Michael," he said, calling me by name, "you are standing at the edge of eternity." His words shook me. This was no dream, no hallucination. I was standing between life and death, with the flames of hell just a step away. My heart cried out silently, "Why am I here? What happens now? Is this the end?" The angel raised his hand, and instantly, the cries and flames faded into silence. All that remained was his presence and the weight of his words. "I have been sent to show you what few men are allowed to see," he continued. "But there are things you must carry as a seal upon your soul. 6 things I will tell you, things you must never reveal in full to anyone. They are not for the earth to know until the appointed time." I stood trembling, unable to speak, waiting for him to continue. My mind raced. What could be so secret, so forbidden, that heaven itself would not allow it to be spoken? But before he revealed them, he showed me why my life had brought me here. Scenes flashed before my eyes, the wasted hours, the ignored whispers of conscience, the sins I had excused, the prayers I never prayed. I saw how I had lived as though eternity was far away, when in reality, it was just one heartbeat away. Every choice I made was building a path, either toward light or toward darkness. And my path, though unnoticed by others, had been drawing me closer and closer to the edge of destruction. Tears filled my eyes, as I realized how blind I had been. It wasn't that I was the worst sinner, it was that I was careless with the one life I had been given. And now here I was, standing at the edge of hell, face to face with an angel of the Lord. The angel's presence was overwhelming. I could hardly stand before him. My legs trembled, my spirit felt weightless, and yet I couldn't escape. It was as if his very gaze pinned me to that spot. Around us stretched a vast emptiness, like a valley suspended between 2 eternities. Behind me the cries of hell still echoed faintly, a dreadful reminder of how close I was to being lost forever. Before me, however, the angel shone like a tower of light. His robe flowed like living fire, yet it did not burn. His eyes were rivers of molten gold, deep and unsearchable. When he spoke, it wasn't just sound, it was power. The very air around his words vibrated, and each syllable etched itself into my soul. "Michael," he said again, his voice like 1,000 voices in one. "You stand here not because your time is finished, but because mercy has pleaded for you. You have been given a glimpse few men are allowed to see, so that you may return and warn others." I wanted to speak, but my lips refused to move. My thoughts, however, thundered inside me. Why me? I'm nobody. Why show this to someone like me? The angel seemed to hear my very thoughts. "Because you are not different from millions of others," he answered. "Your story is their story. Your excuses are their excuses. What happens to you today is a warning for all who think they still have time." My heart pounded. I remembered the wasted hours of my life, the carelessness, the times I had pushed aside the whispers of conscience. Suddenly I saw how fragile time was, how close eternity had always been. The angel lifted his hand, and the darkness around us rolled back like a curtain. What I saw next froze me in awe. On one side stretched an ocean of fire, vast and endless. Shadows writhed in it like storm-tossed waves, each one crying, wailing, begging for a second chance they would never receive. Their voices rose in unison, a torment too heavy for human ears to bear. Even from the edge, I felt the heat scorch my spirit. The smell of burning despair filled the air. On the other side, far in the distance, I caught a glimpse of light, pure, white, radiant, soothing and peaceful, a place that seemed alive with songs of joy and harmony, though faint to my ears. My soul longed to run toward it, but I remained where I was, rooted to the spot between 2 destinies. The angel stretched his hand between the 2 realms. "This is the truth of eternity," he declared. "One path leads to life, the other to eternal death. Every man chooses with every breath he takes." I shook, my soul overwhelmed by the weight of his words. How many times had I chosen wrongly without realizing? How many times had I lived as if there was no consequence? Then the angel stepped closer. His presence was so near, I felt as though his fire was searing into me. His voice softened, but carried even greater authority. There are things sealed in heaven that men are not permitted to know, yet to you they will be revealed. Not for you to speak, but for you to carry as a burden, as a seal, as a reminder that eternity is real. I trembled, afraid yet desperate to hear. You must never reveal them, the angel continued. Because if men knew these secrets, they would abuse them, twist them, and run further into rebellion, instead of repentance. These things are hidden to protect them, until the appointed time. I swallowed hard, my spirit trembling. I wanted to ask what they were, but before I could, the angel reached out his hand. A light poured into my being, so bright it pierced deeper than bone, and in that instant I heard them, not through my ears, but directly in my soul, the 6 forbidden things. Each word echoed like thunder, each truth heavy like mountains, pressing against me. I cannot describe them in full, for my tongue is not permitted. But I felt the weight of judgment, the certainty of God's timing, the secrets of eternity, that no human is meant to carry. My knees buckled under the burden, tears streamed down my face, and I cried out, "Why show me, if I cannot tell?" The angel's expression was both stern and compassionate, so that you will live differently, so that you will warn others with urgency, even without disclosing the secrets. Men listen lightly, when you speak of what they already know, but when the fire of heaven burns in your eyes, they will hear the truth through your life, not just your words. For a moment silence filled the air. My spirit shook with both fear and awe. The cries of hell echoed faintly again, reminding me of the abyss I stood so close to. The distant light still shone, inviting yet unreachable, and in between stood the angel, sealing eternity into my soul. I wanted to plead for more time, for another chance, for a way to make this vision vanish from my memory. But deep inside, I knew this moment was not for forgetting, it was for living. "Michael," the angel said finally, "you will return. But never forget, you have stood at the edge of eternity. Live as though every breath is your last, for one day it will be." His words thundered inside me, and then like a sudden wind, everything vanished. I gasped, my eyes snapping open. I was back on the floor of my living room, my wife still weeping, my children still crying, their hands clutching me desperately. Air rushed into my lungs as if I had been drowning. My body convulsed, and I coughed violently, life flooding back into me. But though I returned to the land of the living, something within me had changed forever. The air around me grew still, so still that even my spirit seemed to pause in reverence. The angel's presence towered above me, yet his gaze locked into mine with a weight that made me tremble. His next words were not just spoken, they were engraved into my soul like fire carving into stone. "There are 6 things you must hear," he said. "They are not for the lips of men, not for the ears of the earth. These belong to the throne of God, sealed until the time appointed. But you, Michael, will carry them as a witness, never to reveal, only to live." He lifted his hand, and with each truth, a wave of light and heaviness struck me. It was not like hearing words, it was like swallowing eternity. The first came like a storm. I felt the weight of time itself collapsing into a number, so exact, so terrifying, that my heart nearly burst. I knew then that men were not meant to know how close judgment was. If they knew the countdown, they would gamble with mercy, instead of surrender. My lips quivered, wanting to scream it aloud, but fire sealed my tongue. The second came as a vision of faces, familiar, trusted, even respected, yet behind their smiles lay betrayal. I saw hands that appeared to build, but in truth, they tore down from within. The angel's voice thundered, "This too must stay sealed. If revealed, chaos will erupt, and men will turn against one another instead of returning to God." My soul shuddered. How many times had I trusted appearances without seeing the heart? The third struck deeper. It was not words, but names, hidden names, whispered in a tongue of heaven. I cannot repeat. The angel said, "These are written where no eye but God's can see. If you knew them, you would judge, and if you revealed them, men would worship men instead of fearing God." I fell on my face, trembling, as the realization burned within me. The book of life is not for curious eyes, but for the judge alone. The fourth was heavier still. I was taken in spirit into a place that looked like a great hall, where prayers rose like smoke. They were weighed on scales, some heavy like gold, others light as dust. The angel whispered, "If men knew how prayers are weighed, they would manipulate heaven for gain, and their lips would honor God while their hearts remained far." A fear gripped me, for I had prayed many careless prayers in my life. The fifth came with darkness, visions of nations not yet born, their future sins already echoing in eternity. I saw violence, greed, and rebellion unfolding like pages of a book yet to be written. If this were revealed, the angel warned, hope would vanish, and men would despair instead of fighting for righteousness. My spirit ached with sorrow. The future of generations was hidden from us not to blind us, but to protect us from hopelessness. And then the sixth, the most dreadful of all. It was not a sight, not a sound, but a silence so deep that it crushed me. The angel's face grew solemn. The final word of mercy's closure has already been spoken in heaven, he said. But it is sealed until the last trumpet sounds. No man may know it. If revealed, many would perish waiting until the final hour, mocking God's grace. This must never leave your lips. When he finished, I collapsed. My spirit could not bear the weight. Each truth was too heavy for flesh, too sacred for the earth. My tears fell like rivers. I cried out, why me? Why let me hear what I cannot speak? The angel's hand rested on my shoulder, and for the first time his voice softened. Because you must live as one who knows. These 6 things are not chains, but fire. They will burn in you until your last breath, reminding you that eternity is real, and time is short. You will not reveal them, but you will warn men to flee from sin, to walk in truth, and to prepare for the day when secrets are no more. I trembled. I wanted to scream the 6 things into the world, to shout it from rooftops, so no one would ever doubt eternity again. But even as the thought entered my mind, I felt a seal tighten around my spirit. The angel's warning echoed, you are forbidden. So instead, I wept. I wept for my wasted years, for my careless heart, for the millions who lived as I had lived, chasing shadows, ignoring eternity, believing there was still time. The angel lifted me to my feet. His eyes burned with compassion and fire. Michael, return. Carry the warning, not the secrets. Tell them what you saw. Tell them what you felt. Tell them the cries of hell are real, and the gates of mercy are still open. But do not tell them the sealed things. If you do, you will be judged more severely than those who perish in ignorance. I bowed my head, trembling, silent. I understood. This was not about secrets. It was about responsibility. To live as one who had stood at the edge of eternity. To warn others with urgency. To never again waste a single breath. Then the angel stepped back. His form began to glow brighter, expanding like a rising sun until my eyes could no longer endure it. And with one final word, he sent me back. Remember, in an instant the light vanished, and I found myself gasping for air in my living room. My wife screamed my name. My children clung to me, their tears soaking my shirt. My chest rose and fell violently, but I was alive. Yet I knew, I was not the same man anymore. I carried a seal within me, a fire I could never put out. When I opened my eyes again, I was not the same man. My family saw only the surface, that their husband, their father, had come back from death. But inside I carried something far heavier than life itself. The 6 sealed truths echoed in me like thunder that never fades. Every breath felt like a borrowed gift. Every moment, like a second chance I didn't deserve. I could no longer live as before. The television, the idle talk, the careless days, they all lost their taste. Suddenly time felt urgent, as if each passing hour was a soul slipping closer to eternity. I began to speak to those around me, not of the secrets I carried, for I was forbidden, but of the reality I had seen, the cries I had heard, and the mercy I had been shown. My wife noticed first. She said my eyes no longer wandered, but burned with a strange fire. My children asked why I spoke so often of heaven and eternity, and my co-workers, once amused at my sudden seriousness, soon grew silent when I reminded them, one breath separates you from forever. I had returned from the edge of hell, and I could never ever be the same. I stood at the edge of hell, and returned, sealed with truths I can never speak. But hear me, eternity is not far, it is closer than the breath you are taking right now. I saw how fragile life truly is, how quickly the door of mercy can close. The angel told me what I cannot tell you, but I can warn you, do not waste another moment. The cries I heard were real, and the light I glimpsed was real. The choice is yours. One heartbeat, one step, and forever begins.